Thanks everyone for having me. I am Luke Delorme. I'm a certified financial planner, and I'm the director of financial planning at Tableau Wealth, which is a local wealth management firm in Stockbridge. My wife is from Lee, Sarah Mack, and her dad was a teacher in Lee, so I'm definitely a local as well. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the question of when to claim Social Security. And to be perfectly honest, there's no single answer to this question, right? It's entirely dependent on your circumstances, your risk tolerance, your concerns, your financial goals. So, I could talk about Social Security all day, but I'd like for this to be as interactive as possible. So if at any point you have any questions, please just feel free to interject, jump in. Questions, comments. There's more collective knowledge in this room than I certainly have, and there's a lot of different ranges of experience. It's quite likely that some of you have already claimed Social Security or have been dealing with the system, and so any knowledge that you want to bring to the table, I would certainly welcome it. So just out of curiosity, I'll just quickly poll everyone here. Has anyone here already claimed and is receiving Social Security? Okay, so like a good number of you. And then how many people here are eligible for Social Security but haven't claimed yet? Okay, so a few different people as well. Okay. I also want to just quickly comment that this isn't necessarily like a policy discussion. It's not meant to be political in any way. It's a personal finance discussion. I will briefly touch on the policy and politics of Social Security a little bit because I have some experience and some background in that, but that's not like sort of what I'm focused on here today. A few quick disclaimers. This is general information only, should not be considered a personal financial recommendation. I'd encourage you to meet with a financial planner if you do want a more definitive recommendation. So this is a picture of me from like 8 or 9 years ago giving a similar presentation, and the turnout was great. They posted my presentation online on YouTube. And so in preparation for today, I went to check out that clip. And to my surprise, there were over 800,000 views on that video. So that was pretty good confirmation for me that this is a topic that people want to know something more about. Yeah, a lot of questions about this. I also looked through the comments section on YouTube, which I thought I would just share a few of those comments with you just because I thought it was enjoyable and I thought you might too. So the first person says, I really enjoyed watching your video. Thanks so much. Keep up the good work. Really positive feedback. Great. The next person, I scroll down. How old are you? 35? Are you a spy for the government? And then the next person says, your presentation made me want to go smoke a cigarette. And finally, 53 minutes just to hear the answer. No thanks. I will Google. But all joking aside, I think that this is a complicated question and worthy of our attention. So let's start with just a few of the knowledge gaps. I've found from talking to people that there are many misconceptions about the calculation of Social Security. So here are just a few of them that I pulled from a nationwide Social Security survey from 2022. So only 7% of respondents correctly identified the factors that determine the maximum Social Security benefits. So most people don't know really what factors contribute to how much you'll get from Social Security. Almost half of adults don't know or aren't sure what percentage of their income will be replaced, which seems like a critically important thing to know when you're planning for retirement. Only 13% of adults correctly know their full retirement age based on their year of birth. And almost half believe that if they file their benefits early, they will automatically go up once they reach their full retirement age, which is not true. So, there's quite a lot of misconceptions in Social Security, and hopefully I can clear some of those up today. I'm also going to just take a second to touch on the politics of Social Security while we're here. So, my first job out of college was at the Boston College Center for Retirement Research, which is a nonpartisan think tank. And at that time, which was over 20 years ago, there was actually quite a bit of political willpower to make the necessary changes to Social Security. at that time, as I recall, an increase in the payroll taxes of 2%, which is 1% for the employee, 1% for the employer, would have almost completely solved the funding gap. And there were other ideas on the table as well at that time, right? So there were some ideas about raising the wage base, increasing the full retirement age, investing some share of the trust fund, and some combination of these items would have solved the issue. An issue that was first identified in the 1980s. Well, more than 20 years have passed since I had that job, and nothing has been done. So now, instead of the trust fund running out in 30 years, it's going to run out in 10 years. And now, in order to solve the gap, instead of increasing taxes by 2%, they'd actually have to increase the payroll taxes by 4%, which is obviously much less palatable for the average person. So suffice to say, the political willpower to solve the crisis seems to have disappeared completely. And to be perfectly honest, I don't have a good answer for what should be done next. That's all I really have to say about the politics of it all. It's an issue. It's clearly an issue that we should probably all be paying more attention to, and hopefully something will be done at some point. Okay, let's move on to the basics of how Social Security is calculated. We have a little humorous cartoon here from my wife. And that is how we calculate Social Security benefits with complex functions. It's said that there are some 5,000 rules in the Social Security handbook, so you're forgiven if you don't understand every nuance of how benefits are calculated. So I am going to talk a little bit later about the decision of when to claim, but before we do that, I want to take a few minutes to walk through the fundamentals. So I'm going to quickly run through some of the basics, starting with the full retirement age, how benefits are calculated, the earnings test, cost of living adjustments, spousal and survivor benefits, and the taxation of benefits. And again, if anyone has a question, just feel free to shout it out. Also, I'm only covering really the basics here. There are a lot of nuances and complexities regarding the calculation of benefits. So I'm happy to navigate these more nuanced situations with you outside of this presentation, or I've always found that the Social Security website can actually be pretty helpful. It's pretty broad and wide-ranging, that website, but you can generally find the answers that you need there, and that is ssa.gov. Let's start by looking at what is called the full or the normal retirement age. So many people use the full retirement age as a target for when they plan to claim benefits. The so-called full retirement age depends on your birth year. So for people born between 1943 and 1954, the full retirement age was 66. The full retirement age is gradually increasing for people born in later years. And at this point, anyone born in 1960 or later, the full retirement age is age 67. So this is the age at which you can receive 100% of your earned benefits. But you can choose to claim as early as 62 for reduced benefits, or you can delay up until age 70 for an increased benefit. So for someone with a full retirement age of 67, if they wait until age 70 to claim their benefits, it means a 24% increase in annual benefits for the rest of their life. And so you can see with the hypothetical example on the right just how substantial the potential increase in benefits can be. In this example, waiting from age 62 to age 70, and I pulled this directly from Social Security, increases the monthly benefit by nearly $2,200, which makes a meaningful difference, needless to say. Even waiting 1 year can have a big impact. And I should also point out that you don't have to wait for whole years in order to increase your benefits. So many people will say, well, I'm waiting until I turn 67 or I turn 68 to claim my benefits. The reality is you can claim them at any time, and they calculate your benefits based on what month you are. So if you are 66 and 5 months, they will calculate a benefit based on some pro rata reduction from the normal retirement age based on the number of months until you reach the full retirement age. I think, though, that this chart on the right is an example of really the trade-off that you face in the claiming decision. If you wait a year, you get a higher benefit for the rest of your life, but you don't get anything while you're waiting. So if you wait till 70 and you claim, you get a much higher benefit, But if you die at 75, you've gotten the higher benefit for only 5 years. It's
Question for you. Are those
Yeah.
dollar amounts close to accurate?
These dollar amounts are pulled from an actual example person. This was actually someone's benefits that went on to SSA and pulled what their projected benefits are.
So it depends on what your pay has been.
Yes.
Dollar amount.
Yes. This is just an example of someone that's like a relatively high earner. But I will talk about how we actually calculate that benefit. Okay?
One other question. When was that chart made? When did they go with this?
This chart?
Yeah, when the years, the 43 to 60. When did they make that?
Oh, this decision where they increased the retirement age?
Yeah.
When I worked at the Center for Retirement Research, which was in 2005, they had already made this change.
It's been that long.
Yeah. And so this was, again, going back to the policy stuff. This was one of the early and easiest things to do, is to say, let's just increase the retirement age for people a long time from now. Because it's kicking the can down the road, but it helps solve the problem, right? So and the fact that people are living longer, it's kind of defensible to say, well, if you're going to live a little longer, maybe we make your retirement age a little later. So, yeah, that was done, I think, quite a while ago. But they have not made any changes since. Okay, so to your question, let's move on to how benefits are earned and calculated. So benefits are earned based on your work history or the work history of a spouse. So in order to qualify for a benefit, you have to have paid into the Social Security system for 40 quarters, which is the same as 10 working years. So benefits are calculated based on the highest 35 years of earnings. And what they do is they calculate something called the average indexed monthly earnings. One important thing to know about how benefits are calculated is that they're progressive. What this means is that the benefit as a percentage of your pre-retirement income is higher when your income is lower. So you can see that in the table. So for someone with $50,000 average annual income over 35 years, the expected benefit is $19,428, which is a replacement rate. They're replacing 39% of their pre-retirement income. For someone with $150,000 annual income, benefits are higher, so the benefit is twice as high, $38,000, but they replace a smaller share of the pre-retirement income. So that's what progressive means, right? So that would only replace 25% of their income. So one big takeaway from the calculation that I like to point out is that it's based on 35 years of earnings. So this means if you have less than 35 years of earnings, they're actually including zeros in the formula. So if you have zeros in the formula, if you work an extra year, you replace the zero with a year in the formula, and then you might see a modest but possibly meaningful increase in potential benefits. Does that help explain a little bit like how it doesn't show how the benefits are calculated because the formula is like a little bit more complex, but it gives you a general idea of what the approximate full retirement benefit would be based on different average annual income amounts. Okay, let's take a quick look at something called the earnings test. So there are many, sorry, did I go? Yeah. So there are many misconceptions about the earnings test. First and foremost, the earnings test only applies for Social Security recipients prior to the full retirement age. What the earnings test does is reduces your benefit if you continue working while claiming. The formula is shown here, the second bullet point. But basically the idea is that Social Security withholds your benefits if you're still working and claiming. But remember this
After a certain age.
this only applies before the full retirement age. So if you were to claim at 62 and keep working, they might withhold your benefits. After the full retirement age, there's no earnings test. Another misconception is that benefits are lost when they withhold them, that they're withheld and they're forever lost. But on the contrary, what Social Security actually does is that withheld benefits are applied to future Social Security payments after the full retirement age. So basically, all they're doing is saying you're still earning money, you're still working, so we're going to withhold some of your benefits, and then we'll pay them back to you when you get to the full retirement age. The big takeaway here is that you shouldn't necessarily let Social Security benefits dissuade you from working if you want to keep working, right? And especially after the full retirement age. So many people will say, they've gotten to 67 and they say, well, I'm on Social Security, so I need to stop working. But that's not necessarily the case because the earnings test no longer applies after the full retirement age.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
So is it up to the individual to pursue that idea, or should Social Security just let you know? Because that's exactly what's happened to me. I
kept working.
And I worked. So
Yeah. So they withheld benefits.
correct.
Okay.
So
when you get to the
is it up to me to pursue that, or do they just realize it and calculate it?
they're supposed to realize it and calculate it, but I would recommend that you follow up with them and make sure.
Okay.
So once you reach the full retirement age and
Yeah.
you collect and you still work some, is there a number that you can, I thought there was like a number you could work up to? And
There-
not lose anything, is that correct?
That's before the earnings test applies, right? Exactly. So the exempt amount is here. So
Okay, I see that, yeah, okay.
they withhold $1 in benefits for every $2 of earnings above $22,000. So if you're working a job and you make $24,000, then you're $2,000 above this limit, which means they would withhold $1,000 from your benefits. But they're not going to keep it forever. When you get to the full retirement age, 67, they're going to pay you back for whatever they withheld. They're going to add it to your future benefits, basically.
That doesn't apply if your birth year is between what?
It applies for all of them. It's just the normal retirement age changes based on the birth year. But this applies to everyone before the normal retirement age. So if you claim early, the earnings test applies.
And then once you reach your full retirement age, you can work
As much as you want.
as much as you want and not get penalized.
Yes. Although you will pay taxes.
So they're going to apply the things that, because you took early retirement,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to apply money later on when you reach your full retirement age?
That's correct.
So mathematically, do people do better off retiring early?
If you're still working, so that's a good question. I'm going to talk a little bit about like when to claim and when it pays off. Ultimately, the decision mathematically about how much you receive depends on when you claim and how long you live.
Right.
That's the big thing, right? So
You get that thing from Social Security that tells you if you retire today and you're on disability, or if you retire at 67, you're going to get this much.
exactly.
So my question is, I didn't know about this. And
The earnings
so
test.
You're actually still making money if you retire early, because it gets transferred over to the amount that you're going to get when you're.
Right, yeah, they're basically it's almost like they're going to withhold it, and it's almost like you didn't claim at all in some ways, right? So yeah, so basically I do think if you're still working, I mean, again, it depends on how much you're making. It's possible that it could make sense to claim early, but yeah, they might end up, depending on how much you're making, they might be withholding, quite a bit of your Social Security benefit, in which case it's not really going to be.
But if you're not working and you retire and you ask for Social Security early?
So then it depends on, ultimately depends on how long you live. The earnings test does not apply if you're not working.
Not apply.
Correct. Yeah. This is only if you're still working. Yes.
I heard, my brother-in-law, he worked and earned more than he didn't know, more than he should have. So I heard that he had to pay back $1 for every two that he earned
Oh.
over the amount that was
This is the Social Security earnings test, perhaps?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's it. Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to just withhold it, but I guess they made him pay it back.
I don't know for sure, but I heard that he had to pay $1
Yeah.
back, obviously, that he earned over the amount that he was allowed.
Right. So that means he was under the full retirement age, still working and claiming benefits.
I don't know about that.
And that's when they would have withheld benefits. And then when he gets to the full retirement age, they should have paid him back for that.
Oh, so he never had to, they never withheld it from him, they just kept it.
Sounds like it. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have one more question.
Of course.
Now is that, say you're married,
Mm-hmm.
is this just for you specific, like one person specifically? Does it have anything to do with the spouse, what they're earning?
That's a good question. If you file taxes jointly, then I think it probably does matter, but I don't actually know the exact answer to that question, whether they're going to look at your individual income or whether it's the household income. So I'd have to look into that. Sorry.
I guess, I know you want to move on, but I
No,
guess
it's okay.
what he's really asking is I'm right at that stuff, so if they withhold my money,
Mm-hmm.
and then that money will, whatever that money they're withholding, they're gonna total all that, and then once I reach age, they'll increase my,
Your benefit.
so it won't be like, all right, so the benefit, so if I never claimed and my benefit was something at 67,
Uh-huh.
it'll be increased now every month because I worked during that time and didn't get the benefit? Or no, I took the benefit. That's right, I took the benefit, and they're gonna pay me later more.
Yeah.
Would that be more than I was gonna get at 67 if I waited?
No, it won't be. Because
It's all the same, it comes out the wash.
it should come out in the wash. Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly right.
Okay, gotcha.
This is where it gets confusing.
It does. It's confusing.
That's why we're here.
It comes out to wash, but that's only if you're working, right? It comes out-
Right.
This is an earnings test.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Only if you're working. That's exactly right. All right, so there also tends to be a lot of misinformation around cost of living adjustments. The biggest thing that I hear from people is either that cost of living adjustments are rare or that they don't keep up with inflation. In reality, cost of living adjustments are applied nearly every year based on the change in the Consumer Price Index, which is a measure of inflation across the economy. There have been only 3 years since 1975 when a cost of living adjustment wasn't applied, and these were all years when inflation was negative. So as you can see, the typical cost of living adjustment on average is kind of bounces around, 2.5 or 3%. The total adjustment since 2000, and I don't have 2025 on here, but if you added that, it would be more than 90%. So a 90% increase in benefits since 2000. The reason I bring this up is that cost of living adjustments are not guaranteed in many other sources of retirement income. So teachers and public service pensions often have a COLA, but most private pensions do not. And annuities don't typically have cost of living adjustments. And needless to say, investment assets don't offer a guaranteed increase based on inflation. So this is one thing that makes Social Security benefits a kind of a unique and important source of retirement income is these cost of living adjustments.
Can I just one comment?
Yeah, of course.
Those increases. Some years when you have a larger increase, they also increase your Medicare Part B. So if you're over 65, a lot of that gets eaten up by your Medicare Part B.
That's very true.
They have raised it significantly.
Yeah.
Significantly in the last year.
That is a big issue. Yeah, is that Medicare is often paid out of it's paid out of your Social Security benefits, and the increases in the Medicare Part B have also been significant, and in many cases the cost of living adjustment, is pretty well eroded by the increase in the increases in the cost of Medicare. They do have something called a hold harmless provision, which says that the increase in the Medicare Part B premiums cannot be more than the increase in the cost of living adjustment. So you can never net of your Part B, you can never go down in Social Security, but yeah, it can eat up a lot of that cost of living adjustment, unfortunately. Yes?
What was going on in 2023 that's projecting such a high rate?
Inflation.
Higher than it is today?
Yeah, inflation in that, well, it was really the 2022 inflation that was really high because of the COVID and the supply chain shocks and all the stimulus money that went out, and prices skyrocketed and inflation hit 9% that year. So the following year they made that big cost of living adjustment.
And that's because nobody was doing anything, and all of a sudden you open the doors up and everybody's surprised. Supply chain and everything.
Yeah, and you couldn't even get toilet paper. All right, a few comments on spousal benefits. So spousal benefits can be as much as 1/2 of the primary worker's full retirement benefit. So this means if you're the secondary earner in a household, your benefit will be the higher of your own benefit or 1/2 of your spouse's benefit. Ex-spouses are also eligible, subject to certain restrictions, if the marriage lasted at least 10 years and you're not remarried. One nuance on spousal benefits is that they can be claimed early at a reduced rate, but they don't accrue delayed retirement credits like your own benefits. So you don't get an increased benefit if you wait until after the full retirement age. So if you've looked at your expected benefits and determined that you're going to be getting the spousal benefit, it's not going to make much sense for you to delay past the full retirement age. So needless to say, spouses and ex-spouses have a slightly more complicated claiming decision than single people. And this is especially true when one spouse was a primary earner and the second spouse qualifies for benefits but wasn't necessarily the primary earner, because it kind of creates this unique decision of when each spouse could possibly claim. And then I'll quickly discuss survivor benefits. Survivors of someone who had qualified for a benefit are also eligible for benefits. So survivor benefits are particularly unique. So first, they're eligible as early as age 60, which is different than regular benefits or spousal benefits. Also, with survivor benefits, you're allowed to switch from a survivor benefit to your own earned benefit or vice versa. And this isn't the case with spousal benefits. What this means is that you could conceivably take a survivor benefit if your spouse had passed away, while allowing your own earned benefit to grow and accrue delayed retirement credits, and then switch to your own higher benefit at a later date. So the bottom line is that if you're a surviving spouse, the claiming this decision becomes even more complicated than with married people, ex-spouses, or single people. And this is really a situation where you want to plan it out, ideally with a financial planner, or talk to a Social Security officer about what the options are.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So if you're age 60 and you wanted to collect your spouse's or survivor benefit, and you're still working, is there criteria on that?
An earnings test or
Earnings, yeah. So say my spouse passed away
Yeah.
on 60, can I start collecting? I'm still working full-time?
Yeah. I think that you can collect. I'm not sure if the earnings test applies, to be honest, with the survivor benefits. That would be something to explore with. I
I've heard two sides.
Yeah, but yeah, there's definitely an opportunity there to either I would take either your own benefit early or the spousal benefit early, and then switch. Based on which one's higher, so that's like a really great planning opportunity, because a lot of people don't know about that, and so they just go and take one of them, and they never really think about it, and the difference can mean tens of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. So it's pretty impactful. So what I would do is just I'm happy to look at it for you, follow up afterwards or whatever, or if you or talk to the Social Security office. That's really they would have the information on that. Okay, next I just want to look at quickly the taxation of benefits. So many people are unaware that Social Security benefits can be considered taxable income. The bottom line is that if you have other income, such as withdrawals from an IRA or a 401k, pension income, there's a good likelihood that some or most of your Social Security benefits will be taxable. So they have a bit of a convoluted formula there, much like many of their formulas, but basically they calculate something called combined income, which is your adjusted gross income plus non-taxable interest plus half of your Social Security. And if this amount totals more than $44,000 for married taxpayers and $34,000 for single taxpayers, then 85% of your benefit ends up being taxable income.
And is that Social Security wages, or would that go towards like a municipal pension or state pension? Does that get?
That would be included, yeah. So that would be part of that, because that's part of your adjusted, yeah. So the AGI is the adjusted gross income. So if you're receiving a pension, there's like a really high likelihood that your Social Security is going to be taxed. It's going to end up being on your tax return, and you're going to pay income taxes on it just like you were working.
Do they tax that after they already taxed your income coming in, or do they to put it all in one thing and then tax it right from there?
It's all in one thing, right? So you'd have, like, basically what they say is, okay, we looked at your total income. It's your combined income, what they call it. Let's say it's $50,000. Then they're going to say, okay, that means if your benefit was $20,000, we're going to tax 85% of it. So of the $20,000, $17,000 becomes taxable income.
So they count it before, they count it as gross, not your net.
Right, yeah.
Change that.
Was there another question over here?
Yeah, if you wanted to withdraw out of your 401k, that was early,
Yeah.
taxable,
That's taxable income.
and then it's gonna get.
It's gonna trigger your Social Security to be taxed.
Total income,
Yeah.
double tax.
Well, yeah, I mean, so 401ks, any distribution from a 401k or IRA is considered taxable income. And the reason for that is when you put the money into the 401k, it reduced your taxes at that time. So that's the benefit of the 401k, is that when you were earning it, you didn't pay taxes on it. So this is really the first time they've had an opportunity to tax that 401k.
You're getting taxed on it by
When you withdraw it.
the 401k land.
See, I guess what
And
I
then
was trying to say is we're
Social
getting,
Security is taxing you because your income's higher because you took that amount.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately,
Double tax.
no, what you're trying to say is at say 20,000, that's meant the whole number. 20 grand, they tax it, right? Then they should take the money that they taxed, now you're up down to 15,000. That's where they should start. Now how much?
the calculation.
Yes, because you were already taxed. They're taking it from your whole, before it's even taxed. You know?
Yeah, I can see that
Yeah,
point.
that's what I'm saying. That's the point I'm taking. So that's what she's asking.
Yeah.
Was the original Social Security contribution taxed when you put it in? Was that amount taxed when you make the contribution?
No. So what you're putting into Social Security, the current payroll tax is it's about 13% of your paycheck, which is half covered by you and half covered by the employer. So that's like the you see it on your pay stub or whatever, the FICA, and so that would not be taxable income when you put it in, because it's taken out of there, taken out of your check.
Just, so you're being taxed, but you're being taxed less, right? Because you say there it's 50%. So if you make 40,000, they're only taxing 20,000. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and if you're lower income, then your Social Security isn't taxed.
Right. Oh, lower than that.
Yeah, lower than
25,000,
25,000,
no
no
tax.
tax.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yep. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the claiming decision. So one of the more popular ways to think about when to claim is to calculate a so-called break-even age. And so here's the idea. If you claim at 62, you start getting your benefits earlier and you're going to receive them for longer. If you wait until 70, you get a higher annual benefit. So the total amount you receive over your lifetime depends on when you claim and how long you live. The break-even age looks at what age you need to live to for you to get more in lifetime benefits by delaying. So that's what this chart is trying to show. There's Three bars here. The blue bar, I think it's blue? Okay. I'm colorblind as well, so. So it starts growing because you've claimed at 62, and so this is the total amount in lifetime benefits that you get. If you wait until 70, you get nothing during those first 8 years, but then it starts growing at a faster pace. And at some point in your life, the amount you've received by delaying grows to more than you would have gotten by claiming early. So we see that you get a big head start if you claim at 62. If you wait till 70, you accrue them later, but they increase at a faster pace. So under this very simple analysis, the break-even age is sometime around age 79 or 80. So in other words, if you wait to claim until 70, you'll get more in lifetime benefits if you live at least until age 80. If you die before age 80, you'll have gotten less in lifetime benefits. I just want to make a quick note that these examples do not incorporate taxes. So from this very simple analysis, many people try and gauge the likelihood of living past age 80 when making the decision of when to claim benefits, because that's ultimately, the most that you can get out of the system depends on how long you're going to live. So that raises an interesting question, which is, how long will we live? So these are just, again, this is statistical likelihood of living to certain ages. So at age 65, the average life expectancy for men is 82 and women is 85. So this means if you're in average health, you would lean towards delaying Social Security benefits if you can. And if you're in less than average health, you might lean towards claiming sooner. Note that there's a 1/3 likelihood that men will live to age 85 and women until 88. For married couples, there's a 1/3 likelihood that at least one of the married couple will live until age 92. The reason that's important to consider for married couples is that delayed retirement credits are payable to the surviving spouse. So if you're married and you're the primary earning spouse, there's additive incentive to delay benefits because there's a reasonably high likelihood that at least one of you is going to make it past that break-even age and receive those higher benefits for a long time. If you have other assets beyond Social Security, delaying benefits can also potentially allow your money to last longer. So this is a contrived example, but I think it's somewhat illustrative. So in this example, I assume that you have someone who's reliant on a combination of Social Security and retirement savings for their retirement spending. And again, I've ignored taxes in this example. So let's say someone gets to retirement at 62. They have $1 million saved, and they want to spend $70,000 per year. If they claim Social Security benefits right away, they spend less from their retirement savings. That's the blue line. So they start with $1 million. Because they've claimed early, their retirement savings don't go down that quickly. However, as inflation increases their cost of living, this person has to spend more and more from their retirement savings, and if they continue on this path, they actually run out of money in their early 90s somewhere. The red line assumes instead that someone waits until age 70 to collect benefits. But because they've retired at 62, what you see is they spend down their assets in those first 8 years. So as a result, you see the decrease in the value of their assets. It really kind of plummets right away. But starting at age 70, a larger share of their spending is covered by Social Security, which means they can reduce their withdrawals from the retirement assets, right? So the result is that the retirement assets actually end up lasting longer than if the person had claimed early. They last until their late 90s. So it's several extra years of spending. And again, these lines cross in sort of the mid to late 80s, which is really just a different way of calculating the break-even age with some additional considerations. So again, if you have some other portfolio assets, that can be a way to bridge the gap to delayed Social Security claiming, is to spend down some of your other money so that you can end up getting a higher benefit for life from Social Security. And that can actually make sense, especially if you have longevity concerns. Yes.
With all this, take it early, take it later, if you would take the money and say, you put it in an interest account, right, and 4% or stocks where you're going to make a lot more maybe, do those people end up making more money altogether?
That's like a pretty common question. I think that for people that aren't reliant on Social Security to cover their expenses, so people that like say have a lot of money and they're not like as worried about like covering their basic expenses, I think there's a case to be made that they take it early and just dump it into an investment account and let it grow, if they're willing to take that risk. But it is a risk, right? Because it's like the whole thing about Social Security is that it's guaranteed, it's inflation adjusted, you don't have to worry about the stock market. But yeah, if you've got a lot of money and you don't need that guarantee, then yeah, you take it and just dump it in the stock market. You can build up a lot.
Let's say $100,000, you get 4%, you're going to make like $400 or $500, $400-500 a month.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. So
Guaranteed.
guaranteed.
Like if it's in a CD.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's what interest rates are right now, but and 4 years ago they were 1%.
Right, that's true.
So that's a risk,
But
yeah.
if they
Now, once you
drop
do
down to
something-
1%, then you're taking a chance.
Yeah.
Investment too, that will go down also.
Right, yeah. Investing is a risk. So basically it's a question of risk tolerance. Like if you have the capacity to take the risk and not worry that if it goes up and down and all those things, then it can make sense to take it early and drop it into an investment account. But most of the people that I know prefer the security of having a higher Social Security benefit and not, trying to invest their way to some future fortune. So people on average live past the break-even age, and for people with other assets, delayed benefits can potentially help them last longer. These are a couple of the reasons why. If you go to like the academic literature, most academics suggest delaying benefits until age 70 if you can as a default. Social Security offers a unique source of retirement income. So unlike other savings, it's going to continue paying no matter how long you live. So this helps protect you if you live a really long time. Unlike retirement accounts, you don't have to worry about the ups and downs of the stock market, so that helps protect you from market risk. And unlike other annuities, Social Security has that built-in cost of living adjustment, meaning that you're at least partially protected from rising prices. So this is kind of like what I call a triple hedge, and they're all reasons to consider delaying benefits. But, of course, there are a lot of reasons why you might want to claim sooner. So first and foremost is health. So if you are unlikely to make it to the break-even age, there probably isn't a strong reason to delay benefits. You may as well get what you can while you're able to enjoy it. And that is probably the most common thing I hear from people who claim early is I wanted to get the benefits so I could enjoy it while I could, and that's a hard thing to argue with. Another very strong consideration is for spouses and ex-spouses. So remember that spousal benefits don't accrue those delayed retirement credits. So if you plan to get spousal benefits, you may as well take them at the full retirement age. There's no reason to wait until age 70. Married couples have a more complex decision as well. So depending on earnings, ages, and the health of the spouses, you might decide that one spouse claims early or one spouse claims at the full retirement age and the other one waits until age 70. And that's something I see a lot, which kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Maybe the lower earning spouse claims it at 62 or 65, and the higher earning spouse waits until age 70. So it gives you a little bit of income now plus the higher benefit for the long term. Surviving spouses also have a unique decision, so it can often make sense to take benefits early and then switch at a later age. And finally, the reason that I see most people taking benefits early is just that they need it. If you stop working at 65 and you need the income, you might not have other options. Another major consideration is other assets and pensions. So if you have significant other income, such as pensions, it might not make sense to increase the guaranteed income from Social Security any further, and you might want to actually take your benefits sooner. So I have an example of this on the next slide. So this is an example where we look at someone with investment assets and a pension. So in this example, I look at someone with $1 million saved for retirement who also has a $40,000 pension, and they want to spend $100,000 per year. In this case, there's really no likelihood that they're going to run out of money. So like the lines tend to go up. You know, their wealth is growing over time because between the pension and Social Security and investment growth, you know, they're not expecting to really run out of money. So claiming early might make sense because you'll keep more in your investment accounts in those early years, and you don't really have to worry about your standard of living falling because you have enough money to cover rising costs. So in this example, the break-even age pushes out into the mid or late 80s. And so this would be another reason, if you have other pensions, like I said, where you might say, okay, I'm going to take Social Security early because I have lots of other pensions that I'm comfortable are going to cover most of my expenses. So to summarize in the simplest terms, if you have other pensions and you're not at risk of running out of money, you might think about taking Social Security sooner because you're not as reliant on it, really.
One would think they would think the opposite. You would think you don't need the money. Let me get it. Let me take it when it's the highest I can get.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably right. Yeah, you can rationalize it either way, certainly. I think that for most people, what they say is, some people, a big part of the equation is how much security do I need? What do I want as my secure income base? And so if I'm spending $50,000 per year and I have a pension that covers $40,000 per year, and my Social Security is going to be 20, and if I wait, it's going to be 30, well, why am I going to wait for 30? I don't even spend that much money. That's kind of the idea here, is that, you know, you don't need that extra level of security, so you might as well take it sooner and enjoy it while you can. That's just the rationale that a lot of people, you know, that I've heard of as a reason to take it sooner. All right, so I've gone on for a while, so I'll just open it up for further discussion. You know, there's a lot of complexities here. Certainly not something that you need to decide right away. You know, I always encourage people to consider their options in the context of their broader plan. You know, how reliant are you on that Social Security? Have you coordinated with your spouse? Have you thought about other sources of income? What are your investment assets doing? And then I have a whole bunch of other questions here that kind of can help you shape the decision about when you think it would be best to claim. So.
My question is, what about Social Security disability? When you go out on disability, how does that work?
I'm happy to talk to you about it offline. It's like a little bit more complicated once you're on disability. But yeah, I mean, we can talk about it.
Now, the government cut a lot of jobs from Social Security right now. Is that true? Is it hard to...
From the Social Security Administration?
Is it hard to get answers? How is it...
Yeah.
difficult?
Yeah, it is. I think, from what I've heard.
You have to make appointments, don't you, on the phone?
Yeah.
So
I've talked to...
hold for 2.5 hours and then just doing other things, waiting 2.5 hours, and then they closed. And now I have an appointment. I was finally able to get through. The local number is almost impossible to get through. But the national number, I've had better luck. But I have an appointment. They gave me a phone appointment for 4 weeks from now.
Yeah, and I've heard it's gotten worse. I mean, I think that they've cut a lot of jobs probably, and you know, there's not enough people working there to pick up the phones.
So for you to apply for any of this early, you need somebody on the phone, or is there a way to do it just filing and mail?
You can do it online.
You can.
Yeah.
And you might take a while there too.
Yeah, it may take a while. I mean, yeah, the hard part is if you need to talk to somebody. You have a question here?
We've got one question.
What's
do the figures show today are the percentages of people that take it at 62, people that take it at,
That-
they have figures on that.
That's a good question. I don't know the exact number, but the most people take it early at 62, and then the second most take it at the normal retirement age. So the most common decision is I want to get my money as early as possible. And then second most common is just wait until the full retirement age. And there's still only like less than 10% of people that wait until age 70. And I know I've done financial planning with a lot of people who have a plan to wait until age 70 because I show them the higher benefits and if they live a long time. And I can tell you how many times they get to age 68 or 69 and they say, I've gone far enough, I'm taking them now. And, it's hard to argue with that.
Well, there's no guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you ever going to have a meeting on Medicare?
Sounds like a good idea, sure.
I have a question on the Medicare, because, somebody was talking about if you have to do the 401 withdrawals or when you reach the mandatory age, what's that, 72?
Yeah, 73 now, yeah.
But when you start doing those, it raises your income,
Mm-hmm.
Social Security income, and Medicare wages. So then that IRMA kicks in,
That's right.
and that can really impact, your financial planning. Especially if you have a spouse, both of yours go up.
Yeah.
Just for the 1 year that income is reported, correct?
Yeah, so what you're describing is financial planning, which is, this is a slide I have. I just pulled what a financial plan might look like. But basically, that is a huge question is taxes, right? So if you're in a situation where you have a lot of 401k or IRA assets, then you are going to face a period where you have required minimum distributions, and that can drastically increase your income. That's especially true if you're married and you both have IRA assets, and then one person passes away, which happens eventually, and one of you, often the woman, is in her mid or late 80s and has now an even larger pile of IRA assets, and is paying more in taxes than they ever paid in their entire life, because now your required minimum distribution is high, you have the Social Security benefits, you have any pensions. So there's different ways that you can kind of plan for this, but the idea is ideally you would do some planning in advance to possibly move some of those IRA assets into Roth IRAs. That's one strategy. There's other strategies like charitable giving strategies, or could be a reason to take your Social Security benefits early. All of those are different factors that you can play with in kind of plotting out.
The number is
The IRMA number? I could look it up very quickly if I had the internet, but
IRMA?
okay, so Medicare Part B premiums, there's a baseline premium amount, which is $130 per month-ish.
So basically, you get Medicare A, or the first one, you don't pay into it. That's the one they give
Yeah.
you because you paid into it.
Correct.
The B you need for supplement.
The B is what you think of as traditional medical insurance, okay? It doesn't cover all of your expenses, but it covers 80% of them. So that costs, the baseline is $130 per month per person.
And they take that right out of your Social Security?
Correct.
Right out, 130.
Yep.
And that's after tax or before tax?
130 before taxes. And then if your income is too high 2 years prior, then they add a little bit extra of premium, a lot extra actually. If your income's really high, it can go up significantly. So 130 to 260 to 300 to 400. Your income has to be pretty high to get into those levels. But yeah, it's a certainly if you have IRAs, then it's a concern.
So excuse me.
I have a very specific question.
Okay.
Okay. Medicare Part B. I'm a disabled vet. All of my prescriptions are done through the Army.
TRICARE.
All of my medical is done through the Army.
Uh-huh.
There's a particular paper that I can say, request for termination of premium Part A, Part B, or Part B. And then they no longer will take that, but with me it's $177 a month.
Mm-hmm.
They will no longer take that out. Is that something that I should consider doing?
As far as I know, the way that it's called TRICARE, right? The
VA?
VA benefits, TRICARE.
Yeah, something like
I think that acts as a supplemental policy, and so I'd have to look at it more closely. But I think the idea there is that it Medicare Part B covers certain things, and then TRICARE covers certain things on top of that. So what many people have to do instead of using TRICARE is they use Medicare Part B plus a supplemental policy, which ends up costing, it can cost, all in $5,000 per year, basically, to get like full medical coverage and, medical, vision, dental, all that. So my guess is that TRICARE is offering you that supplemental policy at a better price. But I don't, so the question is,
I don't pay anything.
oh, you don't pay anything, right?
United Healthcare.
So this is asking you if you want to waive Part B premiums.
This is a request for termination of hospital insurance, 1, medical insurance, 2, Part B, immunosuppression drug coverage, 3. There's 3 different.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at it.
Okay.
I'm going to hold us off on questions and say thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And